Welcome back to The Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into a story that's, well, it's more than just about cybersecurity. It's a really sharp, urgent warning for pretty much any country navigating this digital age.
hmm
So imagine this. A country once hailed as a digital superstar, right? A digital paradise in its region, really pioneering online government stuff.
Yeah, they were really ahead of the curve, advanced laws, tech everywhere. A model, really.
Exactly. Uruguay, building this connected society, getting international praise, a real model of digital ambition.
It's the kind of reputation, a lot of countries would kill for. Really showed proactive governance, integrating technology.
Well, you have to ask, what happens when that shining star hits a major roadblock? What if that digital ambition gets way ahead of the ability to actually defend it all?
That's the crux of it, isn't it?
Because for Uruguay, that digital paradise faced something described as a truly catastrophic cyber failure. We're talking the theft and cracking of passwords for 30,000 national ID certificates.
And these aren't just like loyalty card points. These certificates are. They're the absolute bedrock of digital life in Uruguay. Think of a PKI certificate. It's like a super secure digital ID and signature. It cryptographically links you to online actions, makes them legally binding.
The impact of a breach like that, it's hard to even grasp. It's not just a data leak. It's like compromising someone's actual identity, but digitally on a massive scale.
It really exposes that critical vulnerability,
Yeah.
when digital progress outpaces the security needed to protect it. And that erodes public trust massively.
So we're kind of framing this whole thing as Uruguay's digital paradox, a nation whose ambition maybe got a bit ahead of its defenses, sparking this huge national reckoning, turning that paradise into, well, potentially a nightmare for ordinary citizens.
Yeah.
This deep dive is really your shortcut to understanding it all. Not just the techie details, but the real human costs, the systemic costs, when fast tech hits, often antiquated legal frameworks.
Right. Our mission here is to really unpack the layers of this, unbelievable tale. We'll look at the key players, government, private companies, and also the threats they're facing.
And this brings us to a really crucial voice in all this, Alberto Daniel Hill. His personal story is, well, it's a profound paradox in itself and a really compelling way into this whole discussion.
Absolutely. He's an accomplished computer engineer, an ethical hacker from Uruguay. And his story, it's like a stark mirror reflecting how badly legal systems can lag behind the digital world we're all living in.
And he's become a real advocate, hasn't he? His daily podcast, Cyber Midnight Club. It comes from these raw, unscripted chats on Twitter Spaces.
Yeah, it's become this vital platform, analyzing security incidents, talking vulnerabilities, advocating for victims, and really exposing, systemic flaws in the legal system, lack of accountability from public institutions. We'll be drawing a lot on his insights and his team's analysis today.
Okay, so let's start with Alberto Daniel Hill himself. To really get the gravity of his story and the failures it exposes, we need to understand who he is, his background, his ethics, what drove him.
Exactly. This isn't just some random guy who stumbled onto something. Alberto Daniel Hill is, he's a deeply experienced professional. His journey with computers started incredibly early. We're talking 1983. He was only 10.
1983. Wow, that's, practically ancient history in tech terms. A Sinclair Spectrum Plus, you said, iconic machine. 48 kilobytes of RAM.
Just owning one back then was something. But engaging with it deeply at 10, that really shows this early fascination. And it grew fast.
Yeah, you can see that.
By age 14, so around 1987, he does what he calls his very first hack. Uses basic assembler code that's like really low-level stuff, talking directly to the hardware to change a soccer game called Emilioreno.
And the remarkable part, he sends this modification to a big Spanish magazine, and they actually published it.
Published it, yeah. For a 14-year-old in the 80s, that's pretty extraordinary.
You have to wonder if that early recognition for what was really just playful curiosity kind of shaped his view on systems, on analyzing them openly.
It seems like it must have. That curiosity didn't fade. It matured into this really robust professional career over 2 decades. Information security consulting, computer forensics, ethical hacking, IT security management. He's really covered the whole spectrum.
And the credentials back it up, right? PMP certified so you can manage complex projects, specialized in ISO 27000 standards since 2011. Those are the global gold standards for running secure digital systems properly.
Absolutely crucial. He's got platinum membership for his CSX from Osaka. That's a big deal. Shows deep cybersecurity knowledge. Plus, he's been volunteering with the OWASP Uruguay chapter since 2012.
OWASP-PS. the Open Web Application Security Project, big nonprofit focused on software security.
Right, and his expertise isn't just local. He's known internationally for blockchain, crypto,
Hmm.
speaks at major security events like eCode. I mean, his resume just screams credibility.
It really does, and it ties straight into how he defines himself. He's very precise about this.
Extremely. He says, I am an ethical hacker and no other hacker. I conduct a lot of research to know the tools that the bad guys use, but I am not a criminal and money is not the motivator for me to do this stuff. He draws a really firm line.
A firm line. He calls himself a gray hat hacker. What does that mean exactly?
So white hats are purely defensive, black hats are malicious. Gray hats operate, well, somewhere near that ambiguous line in between.
But why? What's the rationale for being in that gray area?
His thinking, as he puts it, is you have to intimately understand the enemy's tools, their methods, the vulnerabilities they look for to better defend against them. It's strategic. You have to know the darkness to fight it effectively, basically. Not for bad reasons, but because it's necessary for defense.
Know your enemy.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And crucially, before his own ordeal, he wasn't exactly naive about the legal system's struggles with tech, was he?
That's a really key point. Back in 2004, he was actually Uruguay's very first computer forensics expert in a criminal case. The first one, yeah. Tragically, it involved child pornography. And during that harrowing experience, he first saw significant issues with how law enforcement and the judiciary handled digital evidence.
So he saw the cracks early on. Procedural mistakes, lack of technical understanding. That must have stuck with him. Did it maybe influence how he approached reporting things later? Maybe thinking it would be straightforward if he just explained it properly.
It almost certainly shaped him. Seeing those procedural missteps, the profound lack of technical understanding firsthand, it gives vital context. He understood digital evidence, chain of custody. He wasn't just some random person finding a flaw. He knew the stakes.
Which brings us right to those initial discoveries. His acts of responsible disclosure, just to clarify for everyone, responsible disclosure is finding a security flaw and telling the organization privately so they can fix it before criminals exploit it.
Exactly. The ethical thing to do. And for Alberto, it started so.
Yeah.
Normally. October 2014. His ex-partner asks him a favor. Book an appointment on her medical provider's website, Circulo Catico. Just an everyday task.
Okay, simple enough. But then his professional instincts kick in almost immediately. He hits one of those annoying Capiti CHAs on the login page.
Yeah, we've all been there. Those little prove you're human puzzles.
So being an expert, he looks for a way around it. Finds he can just bypass it by deleting something in the URL, the web address. A simple tweak.
A simple tweak most people wouldn't notice.
Yeah.
A bit insecure, maybe, but not the end of the world in itself.
But then came the really alarming part. He realized he could get full administrator access to the entire system. How? By using admin for the username and admin for the password.
Admin. Seriously, that's not some sophisticated hack. That's just leaving the front door wide open with a key labeled key E hanging next to it. A fundamental security failure.
And for a medical provider, admin access meant potential control over, potentially 200,000 patient health records. The privacy implications are just massive, not to mention financial reports, medication stocks.
It's incredibly sensitive data. It needs top-level protection. And his reaction, immediate, ethical. Within literally 5 minutes of finding this, he emails Uruguay's CERTUI, their computer emergency response team, and reports it.
5 minutes. That's textbook responsible disclosure, exactly what you're supposed to do. Find a serious flaw, tell the right people, get it fixed before the bad guys find it. Did CERTUI respond?
They did, and quickly too. Confirmed his findings in less than 2 hours. Acknowledged he was right. So you think, okay, problem reported, confirmed, sorted.
Yeah, he probably thought, okay, done my bit, protected people's data, ethical duty fulfilled. He said he just forgot about it, figured the company would fix it, move on, until
the deja vu moment, which is just bizarre. A year later, April 2015, his ex-partner, who apparently didn't know about the first time, asked him again to access the same Circulo Catico site.
the same site, after he reported massive flaws. Seriously.
The very same site. And again, within like 15 minutes, he finds he can access all sorts of sensitive info. This time, even simpler. No username or password needed at all, just by messing with URL parameters. A different flaw, probably, but just as bad. It really signals a total failure by the company to fix the underlying issues.
So what does he do? Reports it again, even though the first time didn't seem to lead to a proper fix.
Yep, same ethical impulse. Within 5 minutes, email CERTUI again. Consistently ethical. Never thought about misusing it, never looking for reward, just trying to protect data that should have been secure.
Okay, so that's two clear instances of responsible disclosure, but there was one more incident he admitted to, right? December 2016. This one became a bit of an issue later.
That's the one. Yeah. He was trying to get his ex-partner's clinical exam results. Needed them for something, maybe a blood donation certificate. The site had this annoying 3-month search limit.
Oh, those are the worst. When you need something from ages ago.
Exactly. So instead of doing loads of little searches, he found a way around the limit to search across 9 years of data at once. Just for convenience, to save time.
Okay, makes sense from a user perspective, but technically.
Technically, his action, designed purely for convenience, inadvertently caused the server to briefly go down. He takes full responsibility for that glitch. But he's adamant it was not malicious. Just a shortcut gone slightly wrong. Not sabotage, not data theft.
Okay, looking back at all of this now, the reporting, the server hiccup, how does he feel about it? With hindsight.
Well, that's where the tragedy really comes in. With that painful clarity of hindsight, he talks about this profound sense of regret, even naivete. He openly says he wishes he had never reported the issues at all.
He regrets helping. That's
Okay.
chilling. That doing the right thing put him in so much danger.
It really highlights the risk, doesn't it? Trying to help a company he didn't even know, no incentive, no reward, just ethics. And he never expected his life to be turned upside down because of it. It shows the personal risk you take, especially if the system, the laws, just aren't ready.
Which leads us to the question, how did this ethical hacker become known as Uruguay's first hacker jailed?
September 2017. That's when it all went sideways,
Mhm.
dramatically. A police called his apartment he wasn't in. Landlord gives him the message. He just goes down to the station the next day, totally unsuspecting. He had nothing to hide.
Just goes voluntarily. And that's where it shifts. Local cops call Interpol. Routine call, apparently. But suddenly, everything changes. Arrested, handcuffed, belongings taken. A procedure he actually knew from his forensics work, weirdly enough. But this time, he had no idea why. Did they even tell him his rights? Or why he was arrested?
He's very clear. The local cops did not tell me my rights or the reason for the arrest, which right away raises huge red flags about basic legal process.
So when did he find out?
Not until they got him to Interpol facilities in Montevideo.
Yeah.
Then they tell him. Arrested for a cybercrime against Circulo Catalico.
And his reaction, thinking back to his reports,
It's heartbreaking, really. His first reaction was great relief. He remembered helping them, reporting flaws, not harming them. He genuinely thought, okay, terrible misunderstanding. I'll explain. It'll clear up.
makes sense. He thought it could just explain his actions.
Yeah. But after 2 hours of what he called honest, open questioning, patiently explaining everything, they blindsided him. The final devastating question. Had he sent an email demanding Bitcoin payment for not disclosing sensitive medical records?
Extortion. Where did that come from? After he explained the responsible disclosure.
Exactly. He naturally, vehemently denied it. It was just
Yeah.
completely alien to everything he'd done, his motives, his whole career. A total fabrication that changed everything.
Which brings us to the investigation itself. The evidence, or maybe the lack of it, sounds like it was flawed from the absolute beginning.
Oh, deeply flawed. Circulo Catalico reported a hack, okay? But how they provided their evidence? Fundamentally, glaringly wrong. They gave Interpol firewall logs in printed format.
Printed logs for a cybercrime investigation. That's absurd.
It's basic forensics 101 gone wrong. Alberto, the expert, immediately pointed it out. Digital evidence should be preserved as it is, in its original format. You need that secure, verifiable chain of custody.
Of course. You can't prove anything from printouts. They could be faked, altered.
Absolutely. He put it bluntly. What is a printout of logs? I could be printing out logs right now and accusing half of the population of Uruguay of hacking. Legally useless. The foundation of their case was just gone.
So why pursue him so hard if the core evidence was junk?
It seems incredibly weak, doesn't it? Alberto speculates, maybe because he was the only one who had actually reported the flaws ethically. Maybe the authorities felt stuck, lacked leads, or the skills for a real cyber investigation, so they just went for the easiest target.
Him. A cynical view, but maybe plausible if they were under pressure. What else did they try to use?
They claimed ISD records linked his IP address to the alleged extortion email. And get this, one connection to the website. One. Correlation isn't causation, right?
Right. And owning some Bitcoin, pretty normal for a tech guy, was used against him. Made him look suspicious to investigators who clearly didn't understand crypto. But still, no proof he downloaded data, no verifiable info given to him. Nothing on those dodgy printouts showed him logging in or taking anything.
And then there was the raid on his house. the supposed hacker paraphernalia.
Ah, yes. First off, the warrant apparently misspelled his name, Alvo, instead of Alberto. Minor detail maybe, but shows a lack of care.
Right. And during the raid, Interpol seized his professional tools and just completely misrepresented them as proof of guilt.
What kind of tools?
Things like physical Bitcoin souvenirs, like collectible coins, not actual crypto, which he found embarrassing. They mistook for currency, an anonymous mask. He pointed out Lego sells those, a cultural thing, and a USB killer.
Okay, a USB killer sounds bad, but in ethical hacking...
It's a specific pen testing tool. You use it to test hardware against voltage surges, a diagnostic tool. But for them, misunderstood as proof of malicious intent. It just highlights this profound, dangerous lack of technical literacy in the investigation.
And this basic misunderstanding, it points to a deeper issue, doesn't it? The laws themselves.
Exactly, Uruguay's outdated laws. Here's a really critical part. Alberto wasn't even investigated for hacking or unauthorized access initially.
He wasn't. That seems like the obvious charge.
Nope. Because, as he pointed out, these things at the time were not actual crimes. Our country's penal code did not have these offenses, and it still doesn't.
Wait, hacking itself wasn't illegal in Uruguay's main criminal code. That's staggering for a country positioning itself as a digital leader.
Staggering is the word. The law focused heavily on disclosure or alteration of documents and information. It was written with paper, with physical things in mind. It just couldn't grasp digital data, how easily it's accessed or copied. A legal framework totally stuck in the past.
He said, if I decided to hack a website today from my home IP address, the police would arrive, but they would not be able to charge me unless I disclosed, threatened to disclose, or alter information. Stuck in the 1900s, he called it.
So if they couldn't charge him with hacking, they had to kind of jam his actions into existing laws that didn't really fit.
Precisely. So he was processed for attempted extortion, minimum 4 years prison, and fraudulent knowledge of secret information, which was just a fine. They basically twisted ethical reporting into attempted extortion, a really perverse use of the law.
In that extortion charge itself, it had massive holes.
A fundamental one, the supposed extortion email demanding Bitcoin. It had no payment address.
No address. How would the supposed extortionist get paid? That completely undermines the whole idea.
Exactly. Alberto points this out. He says the prosecutor reportedly just overlooked this massive, obvious detail. It should have just dismissed the extortion claim right there, but it didn't.
Unbelievable. And then the testimony from the Certuri director. That must have been devastating for his defense.
Absolutely crushing. The very person at Certui who had confirmed his reports back in 2014 and 2015, the proof he acted responsibly. What did this person say in court? Inexplicably, he claimed he could not recall or find records of Alberto's reports.
Couldn't recall. After confirming them by email? How was that possible?
Alberto still wonders why. But that testimony just destroyed his defense. The judge took it as Alberto lying about reporting the flaws. His only official proof just evaporated.
So his proof vanishes. And then came the coercion. The injustice just kept piling up.
He'd been in custody all day, confused, desperate for a lawyer he didn't have yet. Then this Interpol agent, described as aggressive, intimidating, refuses to give his name or badge number and starts pressuring him to confess, with threats against his family.
What kind of threats? This sounds awful.
The agent explicitly said, confess this or we're going to get your mother, we're going to take her to prison, she's going to have a very bad time. We will do the same with your girlfriend. You choose.
That's horrifying. Putting someone in that position, the duress must have been immense. No lawyer, confused, scared, facing that kind of threat against loved ones.
Unthinkable pressure. His immediate thought, he said, was just, I want this to end now. So he confessed.
He confessed, even though he didn't do it.
He confessed, believing, maybe naively, he could later prove he was innocent because there'd be no actual evidence of him doing anything wrong. He thought the lack of real proof would clear him eventually.
But it didn't work like that, did it?
No. He realized quickly, tragically, it didn't matter. The forced confession, gotten under duress, was enough. The proof part had no value, he said. It's just a stark, disturbing example of how a flawed system, maybe desperate for a conviction, can value a confession, however it's obtained, over actual evidence. This whole unraveling leads straight into part 3. His life behind bars and the really painful irony of what passed for justice. Just 2 days after his arrest, September 11, 2017, the judge orders preventative detention. Locked up before trial. Why?
The reasons given were bewildering, almost absurd. First, risk of fleeing the country. which Alberto found ridiculous, established life, family, career in Uruguay. Where was he going to go?
Makes zero sense. And the second
The
reason?
second reason, get this. His advanced computer knowledge meant he could alter the rest of the processes by mentally altering evidence stored at Interpol.
Mentally altering evidence. That's surreal, like something out of a bad sci-fi movie. How common is that level of tech illiteracy in the justice system?
It's a huge problem globally, sadly. Lack of specialized training. Alberto quipped he wished he had such powers. But seriously, it's an absurd reason to keep someone locked up. It shows a frightening lack of understanding of technology, of digital evidence, maybe even basic reality. Dangerous ignorance when it holds that kind of power.
Absolutely terrifying. But amidst all this darkness, there was this strange paradox in prison. His relationship with the actual prison guards. How was that?
Yeah, in stark contrast to the police handling the cybercrime part, he described his relationship with the prison guards as great, called them great human beings, said he's still in touch with them today.
A weird glimpse of humanity inside a dehumanizing system.
Still, the stress, the overall toll
Yep.
must have been immense.
Devastating. Around March or April 2018, just months in, he suffered a severe health crisis. He actually fell into a coma for 3 hours.
A coma. In prison. That's
Yeah.
an incredibly extreme physical reaction to stress.
Woke up in the ICU. Described himself as being as good as dead. It just hammers home the brutal human cost of being unjustly imprisoned, fighting a system that doesn't even understand the basics of what you do.
Just awful. And then another really bizarre twist.
Mm.
The transitional release. Something seemed off about how that happened.
Yeah, the curious case of his transitional release. It kind of hints at maybe some unseen influence, possibly something corrupt. In February 2018, while he's still locked up, this unnamed person visits him in prison.
This visitor starts pressing him about opening a bank account when he gets out. Reveals that they, the visitor, had significant debts. A really weird, unsettling conversation for a prison visit from someone unnamed.
Very strange. And then what?
Shortly after this weird visit, mid-February 2018, Alberto is suddenly granted an extraordinary 72 hours of weekly transitional release from prison.
72 hours a week. Out of prison. That sounds highly unusual, right? Especially granted so quickly.
Extremely unusual, so much so that even the prison director apparently felt compelled to call the judge to confirm it. Said he'd never seen such an immediate, extensive privilege granted so quickly. Definitely raise eyebrows.
So the implication, while not explicit proof, is pretty strong and disturbing. This unprecedented freedom might be linked to that visitor's financial situation. Suggests the judge's decision could have been swayed by, well, something other than the original flimsy legal reasons for detention.
It definitely makes you question the integrity of the whole process, doesn't it? For Alberto, it must have been deeply unsettling to think even his path out might be tangled up in something murky. Undermines any sense of real justice.
For sure. So, how did he finally get fully released?
May 2018. After 8 grueling months locked up, his lawyers successfully appealed the judge's initial decision. Alberto was finally released, but only after paying a hefty $10,000 bail.
$10,000 bail after everything. Feels like one last kick.
It does. And stepping back into the world, that must have been a moment of harsh clarity. It solidified this really profound, bitter realization about the justice system he might have once believed in.
What was that realization? What did he say about justice in practice?
It crystallized this devastating understanding for him. He reflected, saying, justice is a beautiful word, but in practice, maybe it stays there in a beautiful word, and justice does not really exist. There are injustices depending on who you are, how much power you have, how much money you have. He saw how unjust it was, how people suffer unnecessarily. A brutal, personal lesson in inequity, punished for doing the right thing.
Powerful words. 8 months. For nothing he actually did. His life completely altered. Which brings us to the ripple effect. The personal scars, yes, but also this really paradoxical professional rebound.
Yeah, it's quite something. He talks about a dramatic personal transformation, going from, his words, an upper higher class guy who had it all in life, career, relationship, everything, to a person with PTSD under treatment.
PTSD, that's serious. The psychological toll must have been enormous.
Huge. He said he never imagined something could affect a life so much. His family situation changed drastically, too. Became just him and his mother, a much smaller circle forged in that trauma. But did anything positive come out of it? A new perspective?
He says he gained a new, less one-sided vision of the world. Started understanding things he didn't ever care to understand before, especially the injustices others face in the legal system. It forced him to see realities he'd maybe had the privilege to overlook. And legally, His name is clear now.
Yes, criminal case officially closed, penal record cleared in early 2022. So, legal vindication, that should bring closure, right?
You'd think. But the trauma, it lingers. Alberto acknowledges the scars of all this, obviously, one will carry forever. It's a trauma I hope doesn't happen to any of you. Just underscores that deep, long-lasting psychological impact even after you're legally cleared. Emotional recovery takes much longer. Yet here's the really fascinating, almost bizarre part, his professional rebound. It just defied all expectations.
Completely. After release, initially, yeah, you face that typical challenge, no job offers right away. But then, something extraordinary happened. Quote, "The number of offers I've received since I was released is something hard to believe."
Job offers started pouring in after being jailed for alleged cybercrime.
Exactly. His market value, he says, jumped to the moon after prison. Started getting dream jobs, amazing offers. He thinks his is probably the only field in which this happens.
That's incredible, and such a stark contrast to what normally happens to people with any kind of criminal record.
A heartbreaking contrast, really. Most ex-convicts struggle massively to find decent work, let alone top jobs. It's incredibly unusual. Somehow the notoriety, the story, made him more sought after in the specialized world of cybersecurity. Despite the trauma, the PTSD. A truly paradoxical outcome.
So how did he channel all this? The trauma, the injustice, turn it into something constructive. He clearly didn't just disappear.
Not at all. His ordeal became a catalyst. He's now actively focused on learning the intricacies of the Uruguayan legal system, building global contacts in cyber and law, and, crucially, just tirelessly sharing his story, using every platform he can.
What kind of platforms? How's he getting the word out?
Compelling interviews, like on net.me. He was featured on popular podcasts like Darknet Diaries, reaching huge audiences. He even started his own podcast, Log Into Hell. Great name, right? Where he goes deeper. Plus, powerful public speaking like his To Hell and Back talk at eCourt 2022. Sharing intimate details, hard evidence, using every channel available.
And the goal behind all this, it's clearly more than just telling his story.
Oh yeah, it's about preventing similar injustices. He puts it very simply, like a principle. When a problem is detected in a system and that problem causes harm to people, what do? You talk about it. You create awareness. People have to understand there's a problem to start treating it. So he's actively advising on cybersecurity laws now, turning his pain directly into pushing for reform in Uruguay, turning pain into progress.
His whole journey just hammers home that point. Digital ambition is great, but it needs a robust, responsive defense. His activism aims to fix those systemic problems he ran into. To really grasp the scale of those challenges and why his message is so urgent, we need to understand the playing field. Uruguay's digital battleground. The key defenders, the threats they face. Let's dive into that cybersecurity landscape.
Right, so first you have to remember Uruguay's position as a regional digital hub. This attracted big money, like Google's $850 million investment in a massive data center there. You've got Antel's top-tier data centers, subsea cables like #Tanit, all helped by stable regulations and, interestingly, 99% renewable energy.
Sounds like a strong foundation for growth, but there's a downside to all that digitalization, isn't there?
Absolutely. It massively expands Uruguay's attack surface and elevates its profile as a target. It's that classic paradox of progress. The more connected you are, the more attractive you are to attackers. This leads to what some call national cyber debt.
National cyber debt, meaning the accumulating cost of not keeping up with security.
Exactly. And the numbers show it. Cyber incidents jumped from under 5,000 in 2023 to over 14,000 in 2024. That averages out to an attack on a government system every 30 minutes.
Every 30 minutes, that's relentless. And even with good tech and laws, there's still a missing piece, isn't there? People.
Definitely. There's a critical shortage of at least 600 trained cybersecurity professionals. It shows that even with the best intentions, the best tech, if you don't have the skilled people to run it and defend it, you're vulnerable. It's a human capital issue right at the core.
Okay, so to help us make sense of all the players in this complex scene, the analysis we're using developed this really clear relevance ranking system. Scale of 1 to 10. 10 is critically influential, 1 is minimal impact.
Yeah, it's based on things like their influence on policy, their technical capability, economic impact or threat level, and their public profile. Helps sort through the noise.
Makes sense. Let's start with the governmental core, the main pillars of cyber defense. These rank from 10 down to 8. Top of the list, ranked 10 out of 10. The Agency for E-Government Information and Knowledge Society, AGISIC. Why are they so critical?
AGISIC is basically the central nervous system of Uruguay's cyber defense. Undisputed leader for the public sector. Their job is developing digital government and preventing cybercrime. They oversee CERTUI and the GSOC, the Government Security Operations Center. They set the national agenda. Their top people, like Heber Pagwas and Daniel Mordecki, are directly involved when big incidents happen. Very hands-on.
So AGSIC isn't just making policy, they're really the strategic command. That centralized power is interesting. It means their vision or any mistakes they make ripples through everything. A real linchpin. Okay, next, rank 9 out of 10. The National Center for Incident Response and Computer Security, CERTUI.
Right. CERTUI is the primary operational arm. They work under AGSIC. They monitor government systems through the GSOC, and they're the ones legally mandated to receive incident reports from critical public and private entities within 24 hours. Maria Eugenia Corti is the director there, overseeing that frontline defense. Crucial for real-time response.
Got it. And rounding out this core government group, rank 8 out of 10, the Regulatory and Control Unit for Personal Data, URCDP.
Think of the URCDP as the legal guardian of personal data. Uruguay's Data Protection Authority. They mandate reporting of personal data breaches within 72 hours, and they play a key role in controlling international data transfers, basically making sure privacy rights are protected as the country goes digital. Super important for trust.
Okay, moving from the operational bodies to the foundations, the legal and law enforcement framework, ranked 9 and 8.
The absolute cornerstone here, rank 9 out of 10, is the cybercrime law. Law number 20,327, passed September 25, 2024. This is a significant and overdue milestone.
Overdue feels right, given Alberto's story.
Absolutely. It finally modernized the legal framework, defined and brought sanctions for things like cyberstalking, computer fraud, identity theft, things that just weren't properly covered before. It aligns Uruguay with international standards like the Budapest Convention, a huge step.
A critical step. Directly addresses those gaps Alberto fell into. Now, how about law enforcement and the justice system itself? Rank 8 out of 10.
This is the collective operational arm, the ones who actually investigate, prosecute, coordinate the response. It includes specialized units. The National Prosecutor's Office has a specialized unit for cybercrime led by Ricardo Lackner. The National Police have their cybercrime unit under Comisario General Paula Rocha. And there's the Interpol National Central Bureau in Montevideo. Their effectiveness is key to making those new laws actually mean something.
Right. It's clear the framework is improving, but the capacity to enforce it properly, especially given the technical literacy issues highlighted by Alberto's case, remains a big challenge. Okay, beyond government and law, what about the private sector and academia? Building capacity there too. Rank 7 down to 4.
Yeah, the private sector in Uruguay is definitely active. You've got leading firms like DataSec and Nexa, both ranked 7 out of 10. DataSec has been around over 37 years. Offers compliance help, ethical hacking, and runs a 247 SOC Security Operations Center. That's basically a dedicated team constantly watching for threats.
Essential service. And Nexa.
Nexa is also prominent. They do offensive and defensive security, penetration testing, ethical hacking, managed security. They have platforms like NexaSeam for pulling threat data together. These firms provide that specialized expertise many organizations, even government ones, might lack internally.
Makes sense. Any other key private players?
Genexus Consulting, ranked 5 out of 10, has over a decade in security, and importantly knows the specific Uruguayan compliance rules well, valuable for local businesses. And Qualified, ranked 4, focuses on a niche but important area, independent testing and quality assurance, including security testing for software.
And academia's role, training the future workforce.
Absolutely crucial. The Universidad de la República, UDLOR, rank 6, is the main public university. Their engineering faculty offers specialization and master's degrees in computer security. Gustavo Betard is a key figure there. Then there's CALIN, the Center for Advanced National Studies, also rank 6. It's part of the Ministry of Defense, offers a free cybersecurity course for military, police, and the public, directly tackling that skills gap in the public sector. Colonel Pablo Camps directs that.
Good initiative.
And Universidad Orti Uruguay, rank 5, is also significant in cyber education, covering both tech skills and business leadership aspects. Ingjon Daniel Bacino coordinates their certificate program.
So clearly, investments are being made in building talent. But that shortage you mentioned earlier shows there's still a way to go. Okay, let's flip the coin. The adversarial forces. Who is actually attacking Uruguay? What threats are they facing?
The biggest threat, ranked 10 out of 10, comes from international cybercriminal groups. We're talking major players, specifically groups like Shiny Hunters.
Shiny Hunters, I've heard that name. They're known for huge breaches, right? Like Microsoft, Ticketmaster, global companies.
Exactly. High-impact international group. The fact that they targeted Uruguay, It's a stark sign. As Uruguay became that digital superstar, it also became a top-tier target, raises the stakes massively.
Any specific examples involving Uruguay?
The Santander breach, May 2024. Shiny hunters claimed responsibility. It affected 30 million Santander customers across Spain, Chile, and Uruguay.
Mm.
It just highlights how vulnerable even well-regarded digital nations are to these global crime syndicates.
Yeah.
Size doesn't matter to them.
Wow. Okay, so big international groups are a major threat. What about local threats? Cybercriminals, hacktivists within Uruguay, ranked 7 and 6.
Yeah, there's a mix. Hacktivist groups, ranked 7 out of 10, pose this persistent, ideologically driven threat, aiming at government, corporate sites. We've seen DDoS attacks in the past from groups like Anonymous. More recently, early 2025, a group attack declaring the country needs rulers, not puppets, mentioning things like La Pampa leaks, Bogota leaks, Uruguayo 1337. There's also the Guacamaya group, focused on anti-imperialism, environmentalism, targeting Latin America specifically.
So these groups often have political motives, not just money. Trying to make a statement, expose things. What about individual local criminals?
There's Omar Soka Charkov, ranked 6 out of 10, represents a kind of unique homegrown threat. He administered a spyware app called CatWatchful, which itself had a vulnerability that exposed its database. His case shows a different profile. Local, focused on personal surveillance, criminal enterprise. Not quite the same as hacktivists or big international gangs.
Such a diverse range of threats, which really underscores why robust defenses are so critical. And that brings us back to that catastrophic failure we mentioned earlier, the PKI crisis.
Yeah, this was the incident that really shattered that digital leader image. The theft and cracking of passwords for 30,000 national ID certificates. As we said, the absolute bedrock, the heart of their national digital identity system.
And just to hammer home why this is so critical, under Uruguayan law, using that PKI certificate online, it's legally the same as signing paper with a pen, used for over 190 government services.
So stealing one isn't just stealing data, it's literally stealing a person's legal identity.
Yeah.
The potential for fraud is almost unimaginable.
Who was behind this specific, devastating attack?
An individual or group calling themselves Origuguku 1337. They claimed responsibility. And they had this weird mix. Part activism, part old-school cybercrime. Posting political manifestos against government corruption, but also selling the stolen data on the dark web for cash.
Doesn't sound like an amateur messing around.
No, far from it. The evidence suggests a skilled, internationally connected criminal, possibly linked to a major threat actor in those Machine 1337. That group's been tied to massive breaches at places like Cisco, Huawei. This is a serious player.
Okay, let's break down how this breach worked. 4 catastrophic steps, right?
Yep. 1, the certificate gives you legal identity online. 2, a password protects that certificate. 3, the attacker stole the certificate and managed to crack the password. 4, the attacker now holds a digital master key. They can legally impersonate 30,000 different citizens, a complete compromise of digital trust on a massive scale.
And where did all this stolen data end up?
Millions of sensitive government records appeared for sale on the dark web, specifically on a site called Dark Forums. Interestingly, that platform popped up right after law enforcement took down its predecessor, Breach Forums. Membership on dark forums apparently shot up 600%. Shows how resilient and adaptive these underground networks are. Chop off one head, another grows back.
It's a constant battle, and in this evolving digital fight, there's another powerful force emerging: transparency and public discourse, especially through social media.
Absolutely. Platforms like X, Twitter, and especially its Spaces feature, have become this primary, unfiltered channel for real-time threat intel and debate in Uruguay. It's this informal ecosystem where journalists, hackers, they often break news of security incidents before the official government announcements.
So who are the key voices driving this conversation on social media? Let's start with journalists and public watchdogs on X rank 7.
Eduardo Prive stands out, ranked 7 out of 10. He's a prominent journalist, very active on social media, frequently breaks news on cyber incidents, holds officials accountable. For example, he reported on a hack of Danacia, the Civil Aviation Authority, claiming it came from Argentina, involved groups like La Pampa Leaks, Uruguayo 337. His posts often kick off immediate public discussion. Fabian Varner from the digital news outlet Sudestada also contributes, focusing on press freedom and digital threats to journalists.
These journalists play that vital watchdog role, holding power accountable, keeping the public informed. But there are also direct voices from the cyber community itself, right? Hackers, technical experts on X and Spaces, rank 7 and 8.
Yeah. Morrow Eldridge, rank 7. He's an influential public figure, a hacker, uses social media to share real-time threat info, publicize government vulnerabilities. He reported on a huge 170 gigabyte leak of government files, which was later confirmed officially. He also speaks at big international conferences like DEF CON.
And central to this whole social media discourse, of course, is Alberto Daniel Hill himself. At Daniel Hill, rank 8 out of 10.
Absolutely. His personal story has really framed the national conversation about cybercrime, legal reform. He uses his podcast, Twitter Spaces, for advocacy. His journey is really noted for turning shared vulnerability, authenticity, into significant digital influence.
Let's really dig into Alberto's X Spaces and the Cyber Midnight Club podcast. How did that evolve?
Well, his Spaces journey started back in October 2020, initially kind of exploratory, more spread out. Some key moments were his first anniversary, the first specific InfoSec space in June 2021. But the Acceleron Forte, the strong acceleration, really happened after 2023. Activity just exploded up to mid-2025, nearly a space per day at points, like 28 spaces in 30 days.
Wow, that's intense engagement.
Yeah, it led to roughly 447 spaces in these almost 4 years and a half, with an average of about 76 participants in each one. Huge volume.
What was he covering? And who was joining these conversations?
Core topics were always cybersecurity, hacking, legal issues. But he expanded a lot, included blockchain. And crucially, he started to share his personal story as the first Packer encarcelado incarcerated in Uruguay. He invited incredibly varied collaborators, from hardcore cybersecurity pros to broader tech figures. He said he was seeking to cross worlds, enrich the discussion.
So what was his secret sauce? How did he build this community, especially given his own complicated past?
His formula, radical transparency, that's what he calls it. His style is sharing errors, telling personal things, using a lot of humor. He celebrated his birthday in a space, interacted with Alexa Live. His willingness to be completely open about his past, things that could be seen as negative, paradoxically became part of his credibility.
That authenticity, that shared vulnerability, it creates a different kind of trust, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It created an environment where other people felt incredibly safe to share their own experiences, their own vulnerabilities.
Tell us about some of the unexpected things that came out of these unscripted test spaces he ran.
The test space was truly unscripted. And yeah, some profound stuff emerged. Like Anna Rose, a victim advocate, her philosophy, when I go through something negative, I have to turn it into something positive. Just shows the trust he built. Then there was Boston, a Nigerian Uber driver who joined. Alberto immediately shut down stereotypes, saying, I can guarantee you he's not a scammer.
That opened up this really nuanced discussion about online crime in Nigeria and this concept of power too, the untouchable influence of top criminals who operate with impunity.
Incredible insight to get, especially on such a sensitive topic. Any other personal stories shared?
Another deeply personal one came from Alberto's fiancée. She shared her story of an ongoing divorce where her ex-husband actually falsely accused Alberto of being an online scammer, just to try and gain an advantage in court.
Wow, using his past against him like that. Yeah, and her trust in Alberto came directly from his radical transparency, her words. She said, I knew so much about him, he isn't hiding behind this some name or anonymous profile. It just showed how that complete openness, even about tough stuff, built these incredibly strong bonds.
Really compelling. And he also put together this amazing panel for a main event space, right? Delving deeper into online deception. Who was on that?
It was an unprecedented lineup, truly unique. You had Anna Rose, the victim advocate, Brett Johnson, a reformed high-profile cybercriminal, the original internet godfather, they called him, Scorpio, a cybersecurity expert who'd also been a scam victim herself, and Spider, a self-described black hat activist from Anonymous. Just this incredible mix of perspectives.
Victim, perpetrator, expert victim, gray hat activist.
Yeah.
What kind of insights came out of that?
Brett Johnson gave these chilling insights into criminal psychology, how they use compartmentalization, viewing victims just as marks, no empathy. Crime is purely business. Scorpio, having been a victim of a stolen valor scam, highlighted human vulnerability, how even cyber experts aren't immune to emotional manipulation. Intelligence doesn't make you bulletproof.
So important to remember, even experts get caught out.
Absolutely. And Spider, he offered this fascinating, maybe controversial view, spoke openly about his past dark side involvement in romance scams, even supplying information for hitman services on the dark web.
Whoa, that's incredibly candid, heavy stuff.
Very. But he also talked about his current work tracking and exposing online pedophiles using social engineering. So someone who's really seen both sides.
Yeah.
And the technical details he shared must have been eye-opening.
He gave truly deep technical insights, explained things like stealer malware software that just automatically rips credentials and data from infected machines. Talked about drive-by downloads where just visiting a bad website installs malware. The automated nature of how victims get compromised.
Scary stuff. Shows how easily it can happen. Extremely. And get this, in one astonishing claim, Spider said he'd controlled 27,000 compromised computers in Georgia, and even made the transport system there offer free rides as a form of protest.
27,000 machines.
Okay.
And disrupted transport. Staggering claims. Illustrates the potential scale and impact. It sounds like bringing all those voices together, victim, perpetrator, expert, activist, gave this incredibly rich, multi-dimensional view of the cyber underground.
Exactly. An understanding of online deception you just rarely get anywhere else. The technical side, the psychological side, the devastating human consequences.
Okay, beyond these really impactful voices, there are other influencers contributing more broadly, right? Like Avita Luna.
Rank 3.
Right.
Evita Luna is more of a social media personality, mainly on TikTok and Instagram. Huge following, over 2.2 million on TikTok. She shares general cybersecurity tips, promotes brands, plays a role in broad public awareness, but maybe less focused on deep incident analysis or activism like the others.
Gotcha. So after living through the sharp end of this digital divide, Alberto has some pretty clear ideas about how Uruguay and maybe the world can bridge this gap. What are his key proposals?
Well, it raises that basic question, right? Why isn't basic tech competence standard for people making life-altering legal decisions?
Yeah.
Like that judge thinking he could mentally alter evidence. It's terrifying.
Exactly. His recommendations seem pretty fundamental.
First, mandatory digital forensics education. He argues for compulsory training and certifications for police and judicial actors, says those deciding the future of others need a fundamental technical understanding. Seems like a no-brainer. He also suggests creating interlocutors, basically trained tech experts who can translate complex info for judges and lawyers, bridge that critical knowledge gap.
A translator role makes perfect sense. Ensure informed decisions. What about protecting ethical hackers like him? How do we stop that chilling effect where people become afraid to report flaws?
He calls for robust reporting systems that actively protect ethical hackers. Right now, CERTWI cannot offer legal guarantees or immunity. That's a massive deterrent. He wants to change vulnerability reporting from a risky gamble into an encouraged public service.
So, like safe harbor laws or similar protections?
Yes, and maybe even incentivizing it better. Ethical payouts are often tiny compared to what criminals pay on the black market. So he's floated ideas like auction systems for vulnerabilities. Let legitimate companies bid against the black market, offer fair prices, make the ethical path financially viable too.
Interesting idea, align the incentives, especially when you think about him losing millions in crypto while jailed versus what a malicious hacker could make. Okay, and the legal frameworks themselves, they were clearly way behind.
Updating laws is crucial. Laws must clearly distinguish different online activities. For instance, tell the difference between a defacement meant to highlight a vulnerability and actual data theft or extortion. That lack of nuance was critical in his case.
Define the crimes properly, with intent and impact in mind, yes.
He also hammers the need for strict evidence handling protocols, proper forensic procedures for digital evidence, stop phones staying connected after seizure, handle hard drives securely, maintain that chain of custody, not just leaving evidence scattered on the floor like happened to his drives. Basic competence.
And finally, shifting resources and demanding accountability.
Exactly. He argues law enforcement should focus less from pursuing noisy activists or small fish and more on targeting silent and dangerous predators, the big organized cybercrime groups causing massive damage.
Go after the real threats causing the most harm.
And he champions government accountability for data breaches. Argues governments should be held responsible when their negligence leads to breaches, foster genuine responsibility for protecting citizen data.
These are really compelling proposals from Alberto, born from such a tough experience. Now, let's look at the broader strategic recommendations from the expert analysis we're drawing on, for Uruguay, but also maybe for international players watching.
Right. For the government, the analysis strongly suggests accelerating the full adoption of the Budapest Convention that helps with international cooperation on cybercrime. Also, really prioritizing those mandated public education campaigns and actively collaborating more with private firms and universities. One idea is creating a centralized public forum for journalists and researchers to access non-sensitive threat intelligence to boost that media understanding. And crucially, they must tackle that national cyber debt, significantly investing in cybersecurity pros and modernizing digital ID systems with things like mandatory multi-factor authentication.
Concrete steps. What about the private sector? How can they best operate in this changing landscape?
For private companies, the new legal framework is actually a market opportunity. They should expand services in compliance consulting, managed security services, MSSPs, threat intelligence. The focus needs to be on proactive solutions, things like SOC as a service, specialized pen testing, helping everyone beef up their defenses before an attack.
And for international companies or governments looking at Uruguay?
They should recognize both the high potential for digital growth and the exposure to significant cyber risks. The key is partnership. Working with local firms, government bodies, is essential to mitigate those risks and support Uruguay's cyber resilience. That's critical not just for Uruguay, but for securing the digital future of the whole region.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we've really walked through Alberto Daniel Hill's incredible, difficult story. It's deeply personal, but it just throws these huge systemic issues into sharp relief. An ethical hacker trying to help ends up unjustly jailed because of outdated laws, shocking tech ignorance. It highlights this massive gap between cybersecurity realities and the justice system, not just in Uruguay, but with lessons for everywhere.
His ordeal really did underscore the devastating impact of those inadequate legal frameworks, didn't it? And that urgent need for technical literacy in law enforcement. Plus, that chilling effect injustices like his have on responsible disclosure, making everyone less safe online. It really shows, I think, that good intentions just aren't enough if the system itself can't understand them, protect them, or even properly define what digital crime is.
And one of the most fascinating takeaways, when you really boil it down, is just the sheer power of transparency that came through his story and his spaces.
It really stood out, yeah. Alberto's unflinching willingness to be open about his complex past, his vulnerabilities, his anxieties, it didn't push people away. Quite the opposite. It built this unique kind of trust. It enabled discussions with insights into the human side of cybercrime you just wouldn't get otherwise, bringing together voices that normally stay hidden or separate.
If we connect that to the bigger picture, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? For you, the listener, in a world where AI is blurring reality and illusion, creating ever more sophisticated deception, where trust is constantly under attack, how can we, as individuals, as communities, foster similar environments, ones built on radical transparency, courageous sharing, to build collective defense and understanding?
That's the core challenge, isn't it? Maybe we should all consider how being open about our own experiences, our own vulnerabilities, maybe it isn't a weakness to hide. Maybe it's actually a potent weapon for fostering genuine connection, building stronger, more resilient communities, both online and offline, the courage to be truly seen, like Alberto Hill showed. Maybe that's our greatest defense against the unseen digital threats.